Good morning, everybody. Good morning, or good afternoon for to all those that are joined today. I would like to thank you and welcome all of you to today. We are welcome everyone to the Ask a Professional series brought to you by the BBPA as we look to support our community, particularly as we're coming out of this quarantine together. I'm your host, Anton James, and I'm a marketing and sales consultant. And I'll be helping us navigate this conversation as we discuss the significant challenges for some of our communities entering and doing business with the federal government. With many members looking to understand the procurement process and really to understand what the federal process, we have two fabulous people to join us today. We're going to go into that, and they're going to give us some understanding is not only how to enter or do business with the federal government, but some of the myths regarding servicing the government. So today we have Stefan Champagne and Ariane Simon. I'd like to welcome them both here. Thank you guys both for joining. And I'll give you a little background on them. So Stefan has 15 plus years of experience working in the private sector as a consultant, with a consulting firm whose primary client was the government of Canada. He's been on the other side of the fence, and he's joined this Office of the Small and Medium Enterprise to help entrepreneurs navigate the federal procurement process and hopefully land a government contract. He's been there for how long, and he's been loving it. So Stefan is our supply specialist. But first today coming up, we're going to have Ariane Simon. And Ariane is an engagement specialist. Ariane discovered the government of Canada as a student through her internships, where she worked in various settings and learned the different sources. After her studies, she joined the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises to help entrepreneurs discover and take advantage of the opportunities they have with the government. Ever since, she has learned so much and continues to grow and help different communities. So everyone, I would like you to welcome our two guests today. And we're going to start it off with Ariane giving us a presentation of her day. Ariane, over to you.
Thank you, Anton, and good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here and to present to you what we have in store for you. So I hope you enjoy it. So, oh, looks like I'm not able to share my screen. Anton, anything?
Okay. Let me see if I can get onto that with you. Hold a second.
Okay.
We fixed it. You can share your screen now.
Go ahead.
Perfect. Okay, let's get right into it. Okay, so today is about myth-busting government procurement. So as Anton said, we are from the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises, which is within Public Services and Procurement Canada. So first of all, let's start by talking about the potential opportunities. Every single year, the government of Canada spends billions of dollars by awarding hundreds of thousands of contracts and making well over 1 million direct credit card purchases. This actually represents a huge potential market. So the question we can ask ourselves is, why aren't more smaller Canadian companies taking advantage of these opportunities? Well, that's one of the best part of our job is to get engaged with small businesses community and hear their concern and reduce the barriers. So often when I ask small businesses if they have considered selling to the government, here's some common answers that I get. Some people say the government isn't interested in what I sell, or the government only buys from big corporations. Sometimes they say, we are too small to compete, or nah, it's too complicated. So you think you are too small to compete? If you're talking about the small percentage of contracts for big ticket items that we hear about all the media, then yes, you're totally right. Like there's a small portion of companies around the globe that can manufacture and sell, let's say, aircraft, or plane. But actually, the vast majority of contracts awarded by the government of Canada are valued on their 25,000 and almost all credit card purchases, which is a direct purchase from vendors, and value under 10,000. So smaller Canadian companies are well positioned to take on this type of contracts and provide the government of Canada with the majority of goods and services it needs every year. So you also think the government of Canada only does business with large corporations? Well, the truth is that the government of Canada buys more goods and services from micro, small, and medium enterprises than it does with large companies. Smaller companies vastly outnumber large corporations. Their competitive edge comes from offering a wider range of specialized products and services and from being local and innovative. So we're talking about being innovative. The federal government has a number of innovation programs like those offered by Innovative Solution Canada. That kind of program allows startups to sell new products directly to the government of Canada. They can they can get their first sale and the government gets to try cool new tech, which is pretty fun for me. I think it's pretty fun. And the government can even try other innovative products before anyone else has access to it. So you also think the government of Canada doesn't buy from companies like yours. So you're asking yourself that question. Well, the government of Canada has been working to make it easier for all kinds of suppliers to do business with the federal government, including those that have little to no experience with the process at all. So what we've done is been making procurement processes easier, faster, and even more accessible, so they're less burdensome for some businesses. It's been The government has been experimenting with pilot projects to increase opportunities for businesses run by groups that haven't sold as much to government in the past. For example, we have businesses owned by women, visible minority, social enterprises, Black communities. So that's one of the key things the government wants to do. And we have a lot of pilot projects to do so. The government also has been encouraging departments to find ways to increase the value of contracts awarded to Indigenous business. We've also expanded opportunities for green goods and services by making everything friendly for the environment by focusing on that side. This has been part of our goal. So those are the improvements that the government has made in the past and is trying to make to let you believe that no, we can buy from businesses like yours. You also think the government doesn't buy what you sell. Well, okay, let's see if we can separate fact from fiction. What does the government of Canada buy? We buy a lot. I'm always shocked to see what the government can buy every single day that I talk to Stefan and he tells me, oh, I've seen this, I've seen that. I'm just shocked. Well, of course, we buy military equipment, aircraft, we buy icebreakers, we buy software, office supplies, computers. But that's not it. That's not it at all. We also buy food. We also like catering, for example. I've been to a trade show, and that's one of the part of my job that I like is going out there and actually talk to entrepreneurs. So I've been to a trade show, and a lot of people come to me and tell me, oh, Oriane, I don't know, this is not for me. All I do is catering. I offer food, and I don't think the government of Canada can buy that. And I smile. The first thing that I always smile, well, sign, but the first thing that I do is smile because I know the government buys that. And when I tell them and I give them that answer, they're just surprised and happily surprised, of course. We also buy golf carts, we buy bicycles, we buy sunglasses, we buy goats. Can you imagine? We buy goats, the actual animals. So, which is shocking. But yes, the government of Canada buy a very wide range of things. And there's a need for the type of goods and services that smaller companies or small businesses sell. So you think the process, it's complicated, it's too much time, it's a lot of work, and well, 10 years ago, I would have said you're right. You're definitely right. It's a lot, it's too much. And it's true. I mean, for the procurement process, there are different rules and policies that have to be followed in government procurement. There's some things that are formal, you have to go with these rules, and it's more formal than other businesses. But a lot has changed. Real progress has been made to improve your experience as a supplier and to encourage you to participate. So far, the improvements that we've done includes being able to submit bids electronically for some contracts, which is I mean, this is something crazy new. Everyone is happy about it because it's not just for the supplier, it's not just for the entrepreneurs that is good, it's also good for the clients, the person who is buying. It's less paper, it's easier, it's faster. So we also improve in getting paid faster. In fact, there's an initiative on the go now to pay invoices within 15 days. That's like, you give me this in 15 days, this is your money, go buy, thank you very much. This is great, and there are more improvements ahead to make it easier and faster for suppliers to do business with the government of Canada. For example, we have contract paperwork is being simplified, uh, and we encourage you to stay tuned for the government's new electronic procurement solution, EPS. In short, this is getting wider and greater, and everyone is excited about it. And that will move the whole federal procurement online. Can you imagine dealing with the procurement online and not sending paper anymore? It's just great because, especially with the pandemic, everything is going online. So it's a good time to experiment that, and the government is working to do that. Also, you think government procurement is centralized. Actually, the government of Canada has hundreds of departments and agencies, and they all operate across the country, not just in Ottawa, not just in Toronto, not just in Quebec. So when you think of selling to the government of Canada, you should actually think of the whole thing as hundreds of potential clients with different needs, different geographic location, different everything, because each department has its own needs. So let's take, for example, the RCMP. They have detachments all across the country, even in remote areas. So they need a whole range of services like landscaping, snow removal, and the list goes on and on. We don't stop. So that's just one organization. You see, for one organization, there's a lot of needs. So imagine every single agency and every single organization. So that's more services that they need, more products that they need, which is more things that entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises can sell. So here is a quick overview of how the procurement process works. So for the purchase of goods over 25,000 and 40,000 for some services, the government will issue a public notice. This is what is known as a tender notice. Maybe you've heard that word tender notice in the past. So this is exactly what it is. It's every goods over 25,000 and some services over 40,000. Tender notices are published on a centralized government hosted website, which is buyandsell.gc.ca, which I'll talk my colleague Stefan will talk about more later on. So it's a formal process designed to ensure open, fair, and transparent competition for government contracts. Basically, the government lays all of its cards on the table by publishing a document that clearly outlines who has a requirement, what they require, where and when the goods and or the services have to be delivered, how they intend to pick a winner, because it's competitive. It says competitive procurement. So anyone is capable of delivering on the requirement and willing to take the time to prepare and bid to get the contract. So literally it's, you do what they're asking for this, they're asking for that. You make sure you meet the requirements, and there you go, you apply hoping to get the contract. This is what we call competitive procurement. So now talking about the contracts below 25K, so 25,000 and for goods and below 40,000 for services. Those types of contracts are usually awarded using some kind of competitive process, but it's much less formal. So the other one, we had tender of notices posted, now it's still formal, but less formal, likely to be along the lines of requesting 3 quotes. Rather than 35-page tender notice document for the other one, this is simpler. The government will identify potential suppliers through a list. So we call supplier list, industry association, and sometimes we even use Google. For example, my team so often we go to trade shows, and during the event, people will come to the booth and be, hey, hi, who are we? Like, who are you? What do you do? And we have those pens that we give out to people with our name and website. We don't make those pens ourselves. So one of the things that we do, our admin just goes on Google, type pens or whatever the keyword is. I'm talking about Google. So he will see a list of people, and then based on what we're looking for, he will probably choose like 3 different people, 3 different entrepreneurs. And then we'll contact them and ask for a sample with everything that what we're looking for. They will send out the samples. We will try, play around, play with it, and see what it does, what it doesn't, and then we will pick one. And I'm talking about a contract for less than 3,000. So see, that's a contract that we just awarded to somebody, but we paid by credit card. And that's the kind of contracts that small enterprises need. It's direct, it's simple, it's straightforward, and everyone is happy. You have your product, we have our product, you have your money. So for purchases under 10K, the process can be even less formal. So as I said, it can take even as simple as a telephone call or online purchase. So if you want to tap into this multi-billion-dollar market, you need to be proactive. You need to make sure buyers know where to find you. Like, you need to make sure you have a website, for example. Like, that will help a lot, because as I said, if we go on Google and we don't find you, well, you know what will happen next. So just have an online presence, make yourself known, especially with the social media. Just get out there. So now you're probably trying to figure it out if selling to the government is right for you. Well, I encourage you to go to buyandsell.gc.ca, which is the source for government procurement information. So federal departments and agencies use buyandsell.gc.ca to advertise their requirements. And I will list you the number of benefits of using the website. You can access, first of all, it's free, and you don't have to register to access the website, so it's open to the public. You can search using plain language to find opportunities. For example, you want to see if we are buying a microwave that turns on as soon as you open it, as soon as you close to it, for example. You can go and type a keyword and you'll see. You can find previous contract notice, which gives you an idea of what buyers have bought in the past and what can be useful for you as you develop your business, right? You can also subscribe to receive email notification when new opportunities are published. And I'm sure Stefan will probably talk about it more. So me, Office of Small and Medium Enterprises. We are here to help you understand and navigate the procurement process. Our role is to offer smaller businesses assistance and information on how to sell their goods and services to the government of Canada. So we also work to make it easier for smaller businesses to bid on federal contracting opportunities. This is by finding out what stops them from submitting. So what's stopping you from submitting a bid, or advising government buyers and policymakers on the concerns of smaller businesses. We also suggest ways to make tools and processes better so that it's easier for smaller businesses to compete for all the contracts. How can OSME help you? You're probably asking yourself that question. So, okay, you're here to help. So, but how can you help me? So, wow, this is how. We offer free seminars, and I mentioned free. So if ever one of my colleagues is asking you for coffee in exchange, please, we're not allowed to. So we offer free seminars and webinars, and also one-on-one session to help suppliers understand federal procurement. We operate with the info line, our 1-800 national info line for suppliers who have questions about the procurement process and tools. So sometimes you don't want to call the office or send an email, you just want to talk to someone right away. Info line is for you. Also for you, because you have more than one option. So as you can see, we are not just located in Ontario or Ottawa or Montreal or Gatineau. OSME has a network of 6 regional offices, and wherever you are, there's an OSME regional office available to assist you in answering any questions that you may have to do business with the government of Canada. So we can help you anywhere, everywhere in the country. So as I said earlier, I spoke about electronic procurement solution, EPS. So with this program, suppliers will benefit from simplified processes and shorter procurement cycles. Also, the government buyers will have a one-stop shop for procurement. PSPC, which is Public Services and Procurement Canada, will be able to provide better service, including faster contracts. So this is just to tell you that this is a great tool, and we are going online. So we're coming fancy and, updated. So this is part of the EPS. So we started the pilot, we started registering people, and you better watch out and be up to date, because this will make everyone's life easier. So if you have any question or for more information about EPS, you have that email over there, or you can even contact us and we'll be happy to direct you. So that was it for me. I hope I wasn't too fast. I tend to speak really fast, and I will give back the word to Anton. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Ariane. That was actually quite interesting. I think, particularly within our community, some part of the challenge is lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. And I think you guys hit it dead on, is myths, preconceived notions. I don't really qualify. I have to be a big company and so forth. So I really thank you for that information. It was informative. And now as I transition, I asked Stefan, so now this is really interesting, Stefan, but let's break it down a little. Let's peel it back. But before I even do so, for anyone that's listening right now, if you have any questions, by all means, you can either do one of two things. You can raise your hand and I will call you out. or you can put it in the chat and we'll actually read out the questions. I think we have one right now. I think we have a question going forth. I'm not sure. Was that a question? So if you raise your hand, so if I'll look out for you. If I see you raising your hand, I will call you out as we go along. Okay. All right. So Stefan, let's go into it. Talk to me about how did you get involved with this? What was your process, and how would you suggest for someone that's just hearing this for the first time to transition and get into government contracts?
Okay, so that's two things there, which I'll address. So first off, I worked in the private sector for years and years. I grew up in the National Capital Region, where the government of Canada is the primary employer. It's either you work for the government or you don't. I wasn't interested when I was young. I didn't want to be a stuffed shirt. I was young, and my view of government was boring. So I had a great career. I got older. Now I'm a middle-aged man, and I thought, I'd like to relax and maybe have a pension down the road, some job security, that type of thing. And in the job I was in, I pretty much hit the ceiling. There was nowhere left to go. Landing a job in the federal government is a process. It's probably more complicated than the procurement process, to be honest, unless you're bridged in as a student like Ariane, trust me. So I decided, hey, there's got to be some kind of contracting opportunities out there. I didn't have a company, didn't have really a clue where to start, but I had the benefit of a bit of knowledge. The company I worked for, our primary client was the government of Canada. We were a consulting firm. I knew about standing offers, supply arrangements, bidding on contracts. I had a basic knowledge. So I approached some local companies that were already doing business with the government of Canada, basically offered them my services as a subcontractor. And it took off. I was amazed. Within a couple of weeks, I started receiving offers. Some of them weren't that great, but I figured, let's get our feet wet, see what it's all about. And one contract led to another, led to another, led to another. I made a ton of great contacts within government, figured out how it all really works. At the same time, I kept applying for jobs. For 3 years, I was a contractor. Till finally I landed some casual position. And then finally, someone offered me a full-time position. And I'm like, fantastic, I'll accept that. The second part of your question, I've forgotten. So please enlighten me again. Of course, because I've gone on my tangent.
Well, no worries. Because I'm going to go for you. I'm going to break down some questions, but I'm going to put them
Good.
in a couple of groups. One is going to be from a qualification perspective. Then I'm going to ask you questions more on the operational questions.
Yes.
And effectiveness. So those are the three. But before I do so, we have a question that's actually over back to Ariane by Edmund DeSole. Does your office produce any quick step guides to help businesses get up to speed quickly? Quick start guides.
Okay, well, I can actually speak to that because I'm part of that group. We're working on them. Right now, all of the information is available online on our website. And like any Government of Canada website, the Government of Canada thinks it's awesome. And it's not. It's all there. You can find it if you have the time. So the national program at the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises is currently working on these quick start journey map guides where someone can say, look, I want to offer IT consulting services. What are the steps? What does my journey look like? So we're currently working on those. It's difficult because the landscape is somewhat ever changing. New policies come in. So in the past, we've stayed away from, templates with information that can quickly get outdated and send people down the wrong path. Our model has been more personal, working one-on-one with people, but we realize, especially today, in today's world, it's all virtual. People's schedules differ. People should be able to access quickly and easily information that's pertinent to them and consume it when it's convenient for them. Not everyone works 9 to 5, right? if at 9 p.m. I want to read up on this, I should be able to. You can't book a meeting with me at 9 p.m. So it's an excellent question. We are working on them. It's a little harder than it seems, but be on the lookout. They will be coming, and they will be published on our buy and sell website.
Perfect. Well, that, you know what, that's a great segue, because one of the questions I'm going to ask is, so, you know what, we may not have guides, but help us to walk through. If someone today is listening to this today and they say, listen, you know what, I have a business, I sell services, marketing, consulting, grass cutting, whatever the services are, what would be the process for them to go ahead and get involved? Walk
Okay.
us through. What
Excellent.
qualification perspective and process perspective.
Excellent. Okay. So number one, it's very clear that, well, I need to make very clear, it's not very clear. I need to make very clear that how the government goes about acquiring goods versus services versus construction, maintenance is very different. In fact, they are very, very different categories.
Okay.
So let's start with goods. Okay. So you own a company and you sell goods. Recently, we were looking at a tender notice for tube socks. It was for the RCMP. They had a tender notice for tube socks. And anyone who can manufacture or distribute, sell tube socks could bid on this contract. And that piqued a lot of interest, especially during this pandemic. A lot of companies have been hurting. Their traditional clients have disappeared, and they've been forced to look for new markets. And the government of Canada is one that will not disappear. It will always be there, and there's opportunity. So we've seen an uptick in the interest. So for goods, like anything else, typically the requirement is demonstrate that you've done it before, right? So if we're looking to buy 1 million pairs of tube socks, you have to be able to demonstrate to us that over a reasonable period of time, your company has either manufactured and sold 1 million pairs of tube socks. That's the requirement. Show us you've done it before. Not necessarily, you don't have to show us you've sold to government before. We accept, you selling to private industry, but at least show us that you've done it before. Show us you're capable of doing it. And that's the qualification. That's it. The rest of it speaks for itself.
And history? It's just capability and history.
Yep.
Okay.
Show us your company has done it before.
Mm-hmm.
The rest is just specs. Selling goods is very, very easy. We lay out the specs of exactly what we are looking for. And by specs, exact dimensions, weight, depending on what you're buying, output. We lay it all out. We define it clearly.
Perfect.
And if that's something you're able to manufacture and sell, or even just distribute, because we do a lot of business with distributors. In many cases, we don't deal with manufacturers. We actually deal with the distributors. If that's something you're able to meet that requirement, and you're able to demonstrate your company has done it before, you can bid.
So basically, it just needs a history and qualification. So now that's for a product. What about for a service? How would somebody go about doing that? Would it be
For services? For services, it's very similar.
Okay.
Typically, what we're looking at, let's take consulting, for example. For consulting, a lot of people don't realize that it's by invite only with the federal government.
Oh, okay.
So if you're not pre-qualified on one of our fancy standing offers or supply arrangements, those are fancy government words for lists of pre-qualified vendors. Preferred vendor lists. I get all kinds of questions about lists, like how do I get onto the list of preferred vendors? Well, to get onto our entry-level list to bid on smaller contracts under 100,000, really all you have to demonstrate is that your company has been in operation for 1 year, and that for any service that you wish to offer, that within a reasonable period of time, within the past 3 years, you invoiced some outside client for similar work. So if I offer webmaster services and I want to offer those to the federal government, and I want to enter into your entry-level standing offer or supply arrangement, You can apply online. It's all done online. It's actually, you can do it within a couple of hours, to be honest. It's really easy. But that's the requirement. Demonstrate your company's been in operation for a year and that someone out there was willing to pay you for webmaster services. And we'll ask you to, provide a reference and show us an invoice. That's it. That's it. Now, for larger contracts, it's all based on show us you've done it before. If you want to be invited to bid on a $1 million contract, well, you have to demonstrate that your company has that type of business volume within the past, say, 3 years, that you've done at least $1 million in sales in that area. If you want to bid on a $10 million contract, well, you have to demonstrate that as well.
Great. So I just want to make sure it's clear here, because right now there's a lot within our community that they may have had some challenge, or they're making that transition. So one is let them know it's quite easy. So basically what you're saying, in order to get on the list, you basically got to show a 1 year of history and that you've done before. So now once they're on that list, great. How do they now transition to go to, so let's walk through that. They get themselves on that list of legal qualification. What next?
That is an excellent question, and I'm glad you asked it, because that's right in my wheelhouse as well. So one of the things that we preach is it's not enough to be registered or on a list, right? It doesn't mean anyone can register, anyone can get onto the list. It doesn't mean someone from the government's going to show up with bags of money. It just doesn't work that way. There are lots of companies on the list. So the networking, promoting yourself becomes a key component. A lot of people ask me, well, how do you do that? Like, where do you even find these contacts? Well, a lot of people don't know we have a government online directory service with all of our contact info. It's called GEDS, the Government Electronic Directory Service. That's one way to reach out to people. But I don't suggest you start cold calling. Doesn't make any sense. That's your time, and you're not getting paid for it. For services specifically, what I suggest you do is identify companies that you would be willing to work with as a subcontractor. There are tons and tons of opportunities, as I said, as a subcontractor. So sure, you're going to give up 20, 30 points in the beginning, especially if it's a company you've never worked for. That's a bit of an ouch, but look at the silver lining, okay? They do all the paperwork, the bidding, etc. If they're successful and they're using you and your resources in their bid, and they're successful and they're awarded the contract, well, you're actually performing the work. You're getting paid, not as much as you usually would, but you're getting paid to perform the work. And guess who you get to meet? The client, right? That's how you do your networking. So now you're getting paid to perform the work. You get to meet that government client. You didn't have to do any cold calling to meet this person. You get to meet them, not only meet them, show them what you can do, right? And that's how a lot of people, it just starts rolling. The client says, wow, love this company, love that resource. We have upcoming work. How do we get this person back, right? Are you guys on the list? If you're not on the list, which companies are you working with? Because we're going to invite them to bid because we want to see you back here.
Perfect. So
that's one suggestion.
Let me go back a little bit there. So one will be, you said a couple of things, but before you do that, Edmund had a question to follow up to his previous question. You said you're coming out with the guide. Is there any type of time frame that you have for that?
We should have had a lot of this out already. Like, we started working on this stuff earlier in the year, and COVID hit. It affected us in ways we never expected. A lot of us shifted for between March and June. I wasn't even doing my regular job. I was assisting with the acquisition of PPE in support of the provinces and territories. I played a small role. I wasn't buying the PPE myself, but I learned more about PPE than I ever thought I wanted to know. So it's delayed the rollout of a lot of, what we wanted to do. But now we're back at it full-time, steady, and I can't offer you a timeline. If I did, Never accept a timeline that government offers you. Never. If they say it's going to happen next month, that means sometime within the next year. And I'm just being honest there.
Right. So no directive time, no problem. Well, let's go back to it because as I said, I want to help people march through. You had mentioned just a second ago that if someone they didn't get an opportunity, they can actually subcontract for someone that's going through. Well, how would they know who to contact?
That's an excellent question. And why I'm going to put this right here in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, you would reach out to me or someone like me. As Ariane said, we have 6 regional offices. We're right across the country. I'm just one of the supply specialists amongst many right across the country that are here to help you. Mm-hmm. This information you can find online. We published the lists of standing offers and supply arrangements. Again, fancy word for preferred vendors or pre-qualified vendors. We publish that. I can help you find that quickly. Again, even some of these big companies, people don't realize, IBM bidding on a large, KPMG, Calian, they're bidding on large contracts. But they don't have all the resources necessary to perform all the work, especially when the time comes up. They work with subcontractors. It's the norm. It is absolutely the norm in professional services. There are tons of opportunities. It's just a matter of identifying a few companies that you're comfortable working with. I hear some horror stories, not many, but some predatory activity by some of these companies, and I just say, don't work for them. Don't deal with them. Stay away from them, right? And tell others about them. But the norm is people behave in a professional manner, and there are tons and tons of opportunities, specifically where services are concerned, for subcontracting. Subcontracting has another benefit. Your company is acquiring experience, right? So when I say, show us you've done it before, that contract counts. You offered that service to another company. So that counts towards your company's experience.
Perfect. So now we have a supplier, whether they're selling actual products or actual services. You show how to get on the list and how to actually potential bid. Now let's continue.
Absolutely.
Let's continue to go down that pipeline. So
yep.
The first step is potentially go as a subcontractor. Now, what happens if someone's been around for more than 1 year and they therefore want to go directly to bid for something for a contract themselves? Now, you had in the group chat, you actually gave your contact information. Thank you very much, and your email to follow up with you. How would someone go about going in to bid directly on a contract? Say, for example, they owned a marketing and advertising company and they've been doing business for many years. Let's throw one out there, branding Q. What would they do? How would they?
So again, special rules relating to advertising. Advertising is strictly controlled in government because the message has to be controlled. All advertising has to go through our department, which is still legally Public Works and Government Services Canada, now branded as Public Services and Procurement Canada, PSPC. So again, it's all done through an agency of record, which is Cassette, I believe, right now. They advise us on all of our advertising campaigns. And then we again use lists of companies for creative, ad space, etc., all done through lists. So what I would help a company do is identify when that list is being refreshed, because these lists are refreshed periodically. So that introduces cycle. So I mentioned earlier, well, Ariane mentioned catering services. I mentioned tube socks. You mentioned grass cutting, snow removal. There are periods of the year that we are actively seeking those. It's not a continuous thing, right? So in the dead of winter, typically we're not looking for snow removal services. We start that process much earlier so that we have that contract in place for when it starts to snow. So understanding the cycles is important. We can help you with that. Again, all of that information is available online, but why would you waste your time, your valuable time, looking for something that I can point you to in a few seconds? And that's where our office comes in.
Perfect. I actually really love to hear that. So if somebody, therefore, so the qualification we pretty much identified, they have to show experience, they have to show history. If they want additional information, they lead to someone such as yourselves. In so doing, from an operational, because I want to get to, let me gauge the time we got. So we have a few minutes left. I want it from operational. What do they do to give themselves a competitive edge? Because it's one thing to be able to qualify to bid, but you still may be bidding against thousands or maybe hundreds, maybe it's just a couple, but how do they improve their process of winning?
Okay, so number one is introspection. Look at yourself, look at your company. What is your company good at? And this is relating to the conversation we had prior. Don't try to fit into someone else's mold. Stick to what you are good at, and you will have more success. Identify what you're not good at and partner up, team up with someone. What we encourage a lot, and people don't realize, is that the government of Canada will accept joint venture bids. So in many cases, you have a small company that says, wow, that's a really interesting contract. There's a piece of that that we would be perfect for, but we can't fulfill the entire requirement. Well, why not team up with another small or 2-3 other small companies and submit a joint bid, right? That's one of the nice things about professional associations like this one, is that you're able to network with people in different industries, or even within your own industry that offer something slightly different. And often that's what it takes. So we can't take this on our own, but together, 2-3 companies together, we can.
Perfect. So essentially what you're discussing is basically power teams. So can you and your office help facilitate or help navigate the process of putting together power teams? So different area specialists that can help facilitate one do you guys help with that as well?
Well, we can help with it to a certain degree. Our office has limitations. So yes, joint ventures, I constantly promote it, especially for small companies. Let me give you an example about joint venturing. And again, this is coming back to professional services, but it is my area of expertise. So I talk about these lists that you have to be on, right, to be invited to bid. Okay. These lists allow you technically to be on the list twice. Once as your own legal entity and once as a joint venture. So technically, as your own legal entity, you're on the list, you can be invited to bid just as your own legal entity. And as a joint venture, you can also be on that same list and be invited to bid as the joint venture. A lot of smaller companies, they don't see the benefit in that, and so they don't take advantage of it. The large companies who don't need to joint venture immediately see the benefit in that. What do you mean I can be on the list twice? Well, of course I'm going to be on the list twice. So they'll form IBM, KPMG, they form joint ventures, they're on the list twice. Why? It increases their chances of being invited. And for the really big contracts where you have to invite everyone on the list, well, guess what? IBM plus IBM's joint venture have been invited to bid. They're now submitting 2 separate bids for the same contract, increasing their chances. So partnering up, joint venturing is something that smaller companies should absolutely explore.
Perfect. So in order to help increase is partnering. Is there something that they should do that's oftentimes historically caused problems with communities or businesses not winning something? Is there a problem that they're typically doing?
Okay, if your question is general about like what are the most common mistakes made in the bidding process, the most common mistakes are attention to detail. We live in an age where, and I'm sure everyone here can appreciate this, where we text, it's got its own lingo. We scan documents, no one reads anymore. And that's the most common mistake, is people fail to read the document. They look at it. I got the gist of it. This is great. Then they'll make some type of administrative mistake where they forgot to sign something or submit a particular document that they had laying right there. It's just they didn't pay attention. And again, procurement is a process. It's formal. You make one little administrative mistake, your bid can be rejected. It's as simple as that. And that is probably the biggest problem, is minor administrative mistakes. Another one is counter proposal. That's one huge no-no, right? If we're looking for oranges, don't say, oh no, oranges are out of season. You want apples. No, we don't. We want oranges. So stick to what we're asking for. Really, there's nothing complicated about it. It's a simple process as long as you just follow the rules. Just speak directly to what we are asking for.
Perfect. Again, anyone out there, by all means, we have questions. We have just about a little over 5 minutes left. So if you have any questions, by all means, either raise your hand or put it in the chat. So we've talked about some of the things to avoid, and you said things we can increase is in order to go forward. Is there 2 top pieces of advice you would actually give in order to make things effective? And or is there 2 types of, is it basic services that you do, or is it, what can they do to really increase? Because really, how do they get traction?
So really, that's visibility and research. Visibility and research. Essentially, what happens is you'll have a client out there. We use fancy terms like technical authority, but it's really just a client, an end user, who identifies they have a need, right? This person may not know about all the new innovative products and services out there. So typically, if it's a recurring contract or just one that they're renewing, they'll just write it up the same way they did last time. And guess what? They'll end up getting exactly what they got last time. So it's important to connect with government officials, and let them know what's new, what's available before they write up that requirement, so that they say, oh, wow, okay. So maybe, we don't want the same old stuff we used to buy. We know that there's better out there at a competitive price. So when they write their requirement, you'll have a chance to compete. If they write their requirement the same way they did last time, and you're offering an innovative product, unfortunately, that's not what they're asking for. You're not going to be successful. So connecting with government, don't be afraid to connect with government. Ask questions, speak to people. Remember, we're public servants. We're here to deliver services to Canadians. We're here to work for you. Our goal is to obtain best value and deliver on our mandates. We're here to listen. Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay.
So that is it.
With that, how does someone get involved? You mentioned something there, get involved with the actual procurement process. So, helping them.
Okay.
Uh-oh. I think we have a question coming through. Nadine, was that you for a question?
It is, yes. Can you hear me? I know I'm driving.
Yes.
We can.
No, I can hear you.
Yeah. I guess my question is for Ariane, and thank you both for your presentations. Stefan, Ariane, excellent. We definitely will be connecting with you. But my question is for you, Ariane, who presented on behalf of the government. What I'd like to know is what are the what is the numbers of diverse opportunities that's been awarded by the federal government over, whatever X time. So if you were to look at the numbers over the last year, what is the amount of procurement opportunities that has been won by a diverse audience businesses?
So if I hear you asking the number of awarded contracts that diverse companies have received over the past years?
Yeah,
That-
and the reason why I asked this contract is that as head of the BBPA, we have many members, a lot of and different businesses who aren't members but are friends of the BBPA and subscribe to our information. And what we hear, even from a recent survey that we had done, a lot of, actually none of them have had procurement opportunities with government. So I just want to understand what that looks like on your end, and really how do we and I've heard everything you've said, both of you have shared, but the access is still very limiting for our entrepreneurs, and the process to navigate it is not easy. We have these conversations, but we still don't find that we're having any success with our stakeholders and members that have been awarded opportunities.
Okay. And when you say diverse, you talk about all the visible minority businesses?
Yeah, and specifically because we're the BBPA, we're looking specifically at Black-owned businesses. Yes,
for sure. So since Stefan is a specialist in the procurement, I will let him answer that if he has any stats.
Okay, so first off, I don't have any stats. I know this is being recorded, but I'm going to say this anyway. I don't know if anybody actually has those statistics, because I don't think we actually collect that information. And if we do, it's something that we've started doing. That said, we are looking at modernizing procurement. And one of the things coming down the pipe is our electronic procurement solution. I was involved early days with the development of the supplier profile, and that is one of the key components that we're adding. Currently, our supplier registration system only allows you to indicate whether or not you're an Indigenous-owned business. Doesn't allow you to indicate if you're women-owned or minority-owned, any of that. We weren't collecting that information. But it's in our mandate letter to increase participation and the number of contracts being awarded to, as you referred, diverse suppliers.
How do they measure that? Like there is one thing to say there, but the increase, that's a very oblivious.
I don't know how it's being measured right now, is what I'm telling you.
Okay.
Someone out there probably has numbers. I don't know what they are or where they got them. What I can tell you is we have launched our electronic procurement solution, and that is all built into the supplier profile. So moving forward, if I have a low dollar value procurement and I decide that I want to award it to a minority owned business, with the new electronic procurement solution, I'll be able to generate a list in seconds. With our current systems, I don't know how someone would do that. So what I'm trying to say, we don't, so far as I know, okay, so far as I know, I don't speak for the government as a whole, but we were not collecting that type of information. And we were doing so because why collect information that you're not going to use? But now we realize that, hey, if we want to increase opportunities for Black-owned businesses, then we need to be able to identify them. So if you're going to ask someone, are you a Black-owned business? You better have a reason to ask. And in the past, we didn't have a reason. It was just data we would be collecting. Now we have a reason, because the minister's mandate letter says we want more contracts going to diverse suppliers. Well, to do that, we need to be able to identify them. And our new electronic procurement solution is going to allow us to do that. So the answer to your question is, I don't know the answer. But someone out there probably has numbers. Again, we have Statistics Canada, Innovation Science, Economic Development Canada that study all of this. So they may be able to produce some numbers. And I'd be happy to look at that online with you, but I don't have a definite answer to your question.
Yeah, and so here's my follow-up. My follow-up to this is that when we're looking at, as you know, the BBPA exists to create economic opportunities for our members, which are Black entrepreneurs. And so when we have these conversations, for me, they have to move to some sort of action. And I know that, awareness is the first key, but we do a lot of talking. And what I would like to see is us moving towards tangible outcomes. So to be able to say, you know what, we're here, but I know of 10 Black entrepreneurs that has received procurement opportunities in these particular area of governments. When we opened up, we talk about the government buying a lot of things, catering, we talk about military equipment, pens even. Where are those suppliers that are Black-owned businesses that the government has bought, 10,000 pens from? Even the low dollar value accounts, what are they? Because at the end of the day, we need to show some tangible outcome to our members that, we've had this conversation for the past how many years, and now we're moving, we can show you 10 people that has had some success in this area. And we don't have that.
Okay, I understand. Again, I don't know. I don't have those numbers. I don't even know who or how people are collecting that information. What I can tell you though, is yes, there's been a lot of talk, but that's how government works. Everything is slow, measured. When we roll it out, we want to make sure we roll it out correctly. No one wants another Phoenix. Tangible, I'll give you tangible. And I know the time is up, but I'll take 1 minute for this. We have a number of pilot projects that Audiane spoke about. We looked at capacity in particular fields. We identified catering as one of them. There's a few catering pilots that are available right now on Buy and Sell, where you can go and identify as a diverse supplier. And we make that list available to other departments that are looking for catering services that are low dollar value, and we encourage them to use them. Departments have signed on and said, yes, we will use that list because we want to help advance the government's mandate on supporting diverse entrepreneurs. One of the big ones, okay, so that's catering. One of the big ones is temporary help services. That's a huge spend in government, okay? Temporary help services, huge spend. We launched a pilot in the National Capital Region where, again, it's by invite only. Companies have to be on a list. Well, the companies that are invited to bid, they've added a new feature to it where it ensures that at least 1/3 of the companies that are invited to bid are a diverse supplier, women-owned, minority-owned, Indigenous, social enterprise, etc. By increasing participation, we increase the actual chance of them landing a contract. Many people talk about set-asides or different ways of achieving the goal. And no one seems to want, or no one seems to be able to agree just now on that. But by launching these pilots, where we're going to be able to produce real numbers, we will then be able to say, this works. So by trying a number of different things, we'll be able to say, this works, this doesn't work. Since 1996, we've had the procurement strategy for Aboriginal business. And we've been able to produce numbers on the outcomes of that strategy. And I can tell you, it's not perfect. And that's why we've looked at other avenues like Indigenous benefits, the Nunavut directive. And these are things that we need to start seeing for a wider range of diverse suppliers. And I can assure you they're coming. The electronic procurement solution is the right step. You will be able to identify as a diverse supplier. And again, buyers and clients will be encouraged to do more business with diverse suppliers. Right now, we get calls from buyers. How do I identify a Black-owned business? And I tell them, outside of my network, I don't know. That information isn't being collected.
Well, Nadine is.
Yeah,
Nadine,
I guess my point, and you see, I'm very passionate about this, as you can see, because this is one of the key ways that Black business owners are going to be able to have the economic opportunities and strong future we talk about. And when we don't have access to these great opportunities, that Oriane talked about, that the government has, and we pay taxes, and so we need to be part of that table in a way that that will benefit our future. And when you look at creating opportunities for the sector that you have, it's looking at what's missing. And so when we come back to this, and I know I'm belaboring the point, but I'm belaboring the point because when I look at the gap for growth in the sector of Black entrepreneurs, we need more. We need the same opportunities that the billions and trillions of dollars that you're talking about that is available to others. We need access to that. And
I just want to be clear on one point, and I hate to cut you off.
Yeah.
Everyone currently and has always had equal access. So when you say we don't have access, I just want to put a caveat there. You have equal access, and that's the cornerstone of federal government procurement, which is equality of access. Our office is about outreach. Access isn't enough. If you don't have the information to act on that access, then what's the point, right? And that's why we're here to say it is possible, and we're willing to work with you to make it possible. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just needed to clarify that. Equality of access.
Clarify that with, in law, they say res ispa loquitur, the thing speaks for itself, right? So that's a whole other conversation, because I think access, it comes to languaging, access to how the information is done on the website, and that's not this conversation. But I'm hoping that when we have this conversation again and we build, because we will, Stefan, work to build, is that we're going to be able to show and say we have these 100 Black entrepreneurs that now have procurement opportunities. It will not be an anomaly. It'll not be, something that, the unicorn. We will have something tangible. That is the hope.
Well, I think that's the point of the partnership between the Office of Small and Medium Enterprise and the Black Professional Business Network, or Business Association, I should say.
Association, yeah. And I wanted to jump in, if I can, quickly, just to add, as a Black person, honestly, I understand your frustration, because I've asked myself that. And I think, Stefan, she was talking more about there's some tender of notice for Indigenous only. So I guess as a Black entrepreneurs, you're expecting like tender of notices for Black people, and I think maybe, unless I'm wrong, maybe that's what she was talking about. Like, okay, we have access to other things, but they have some stuff for only them. So why not the Black community as well? So hopefully I'm not wrong about that. And also,
no, you're correct, but a lot of people don't understand that those strategies, the procurement strategy from Aboriginal business, is enshrined in treaties. These are born from legal documents like comprehensive land claim agreements.
I don't want to stop this now, because I know we're just coming out of.
Can I just have one last point?
Go ahead.
Yes, please.
The same strategy we apply for women, I think that's also could be applied to Black entrepreneurs, because we've made procurement opportunities specifically for women. So when we look at things through the gender lens, we certainly recognize that there was a gap and we needed to do something about it. So we want that same lens for our Black entrepreneurs and businesses. And I will leave it at that. But thank you, guys.
Oh, you're welcome. And I agree wholeheartedly with you. I think everyone should have opportunity. Procurement, we're spending the money anyway. Why can't we spend it in such a fashion that benefits Canadian people, Canadian entrepreneurs? We operate in a framework, though, with trade agreements and a bunch of boring stuff that says you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. There are ways to do it, and that's what we need to do.
I'll
end with that.
And thank you for a quick second, Stefan, because I think you're correct. The key is we got to find a way to do it. And the key is, which was brought up, is not just access. Access doesn't mean the ability to apply, but access means to successfully, effectively win, particularly within a community. As we're coming out of COVID here, as we're coming out of Black Lives Matter, we're coming out of Black empowerment, there is definitely a desire and a need not for just talking conversations or access process. That's a beautiful side to it. That's the first side, but it's really is the most effective side. But you know what? I got to really thank you guys because they're really running. We're actually overtime at this point, and I want to thank those. But before I do, Nadine, you're bringing such great points. Is there any last things you'd like to sum up before we let you go, Nadine?
No, I just want to say thank you both very much. I have to ask the tough questions because I ask it on the behalf of our members who they call us and they ask us those tough questions. I did mention in many different instances that when COVID happened, I was the one that answered the 24-hour line that the BBPA had for our Black entrepreneurs. And because of that, I heard their cry. I heard their needs for help, and I heard the areas as to where they needed the help. So I'm representing the voices that can't be here. But I thank you for being here, and I very much look forward to a partnership as we look to open opportunities for the people that we serve. Thank you both very much for being here.
You're welcome, and thank you
We're
for having
excited.
us. Thank you very much, Anton, Ross. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
You know, I think we might
let's
have
keep the
to-
dialogue going.
Well, that's the thing about it. I think we're going to have to bring it back at some point in the future as we learn to figure out how to be more effective, particularly in small niches, put actionable items to that. But with that said, I want to thank everybody for joining this morning. It really was an interesting conversation that's definitely needed. Economic empowerment, specifically for the Black community. We appreciate our guests coming in, Stefan and Ariane. We appreciate you. Continue to sit down there and reach forward. We will be having another venue next week as we continue to work together as we push together going forward. Going forward, that's it for today. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to the BBPA directly, and we will continue to fight for your behalf as well. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.